So we're doing 10.7 circles in the coordinate plane. So remember, more or less, we're writing the equations of the circles. So like I said, basically, this x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared is the same as it's the circle's version of y equals mx plus b for a line. So it's just the equation we're going to use when we're writing equations of a circle. Now we need two things in order to write the equation of a circle. And here's our two things. The center and the radius. So we need these two things. To write the equation. So make note of that. You will always need a center and always need a radius. You need those two things in order to write the equation of a circle. All right, and make note that whenever you're writing this final equation, the x and y stay the same for the final equation. Kind of like, you remember when we solved or we wrote equations of lines, y equals mx plus b? When we wrote out the final equation, the y and the x stayed the same. You just plugged in the m and the b. It's the same thing here. We're just going to plug in the h, the k, and the r. And the x and y will stay the same. So we have to ask ourselves, where do we get h and k and the r? Well, the h and k is the center point on a circle. So say on this one, let's just pretend it was, the coordinate point was 5, 6. The 5 would be h and the 6 would be k. Okay, so that's the center point of the circle. And then the radius is simply how far is it from the center to the edge. Okay. Now, if you ever wondered like what's represented by x and y in the equation, it would be the edge of the circle. So that any point on the edge of the circle is my x and y, if you ever needed to use that. So I need the center and the radius. So two things I need to be able to write the equation of a circle. Well, this one, they gave me a drawing, and I've got to find the center of it. Does anybody know how you would find the center of a drawn circle? What's the point called that, or the line that goes all the way across and through the center? Diameter. So what I would do is I would go and find the point that's all the way the furthest to the left. So you see all the way the furthest to the left would be like right here. And go straight across, because that's going to be my diameter from the furthest to the left to the furthest to the right. The widest part of the circle, because the diameter goes through the center, and it's the widest part. Count that up. Tell me what the diameter equals when you count those. 6. So Roman, if my diameter is 6, what's the radius going to be? Yeah, so the radius is half the diameter, so the radius is just going to be 3. So all right, so there's my radius, 3. In class, the radius goes from the edge of the circle to the what? Center. So if I go from the edge and count 3, 1, 2, 3, it's going to be my center point, right? Does that make sense? Just find your diameter and then just go half of that, and that'll be your center point. So this is my center. What is that coordinate point of that center? Yeah, it's just the coordinate of it. Okay, now I have a center and the radius. Now I just plug it in. My formula is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So x minus Paula, what's the h? 0 squared plus y minus Monica, what's the k? 0 squared equals r squared. And Angel, what's the r? So the r is 3. Now we simplify this. Angie, x minus 0 squared is just going to become what? Perfect, x squared. Brady, y minus 0 squared becomes?
Y squared.
Y squared. And Mateo, 3 squared is 9. And that's it on that one. All right, it says write the standard equation. What two things do I need to be able to write an equation of a circle?
The center and the radius.
Center and the radius. Okay, so let's do it one more time. What's two things we need, class, to write an equation of a circle?
The center and radius.
The center and the radius. What did they give me on this one?
Center and radius.
Center and radius. That's beautiful, right? That means there's literally we just got to pop it into the formula. So the 4.2 is the radius, so I'm just going to label an R above it. And then the center, what two letters is it going to be?
H and K.
H and K. So now I go to my equation. Standard equations, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And we literally just plug everything in and then we'll simplify it. So what do we do with the x and y? What do we write down that we do with that when we're writing the final equation?
They stay the same.
They stay the same, right? So x minus, Shelby, what's the h? 0 squared. Jules, Jules, we leave the y, but then what's the k? -9, so y minus -9 squared. Then Chris, what's the r? 4.2. Okay. So we just literally filled in, just substituted our numbers in. Now we're going to simplify on this last step here. So x minus 0, does 0 bring any value at all? No. So instead of, I'm not even write the parentheses. Instead of having put an x minus 0, that's the same thing as just x, right? So I'm just going to write x and keep the squared. So x squared without parentheses. If you ever get one that's minus 0, just drop the 0. Okay. That's the simplified way. Plus y minus a -9.
So y plus 9.
Yeah, the two negatives make a positive. So it becomes y plus 9 squared. If you have a number that does bring value, you just leave it like that. Y plus 9. If it was like x minus 7 or whatever, you just leave it like that. And now just squared, so 4.2 squared. Hernan, what do you get? 4.2 squared. First decimal place. 17.6. And that's it? All right, it says write standard equation, and it says the center is 0, 0, and a point on the circle is 3, -7. What two things, class, do I need to write an equation of a circle again? Center and radius. Braden, what did they give me here, though? So yeah, they gave me the center and the point on the circle here. So what am I missing, class, to be able to write this equation? Radius. Okay. So that means I got to find the radius. So step 1 would be find the radius. And really I'm going to put find the radius squared. And I'll explain that why at the end. So the center represents h and k. So the point on the circles represents x and y. So just so y'all can see, so if I had a circle, the center would be right there, and they're saying that's 0, 0. And then the point on the circle is just a point literally on the edge of the circle. And they say it's 3, -7, so it'd probably be somewhere over here. So it's a point on the circle, and it's 3, -7. So this is what they've given me right now. And they said write the standard equation. So I need to find the radius. One way I could find it is, remember the distance formula? You could plug in for it, solve for it and everything. But to me, an easier way would be to use our standard equation. So I have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And since I'm missing radius squared, I'm going to plug in everything else and just solve for it. So let's plug this in. Rakeem, what's my x? 3. Minus Armando, what's my h?
What? The H?
Mm-hmm. 0. Josiah, what's my y? -7. Minus. Adriana, what's my k? 0. And we don't know r squared, so it equals r squared. Okay. Now, literally, I'm going to take this whole section right here, plug it into my calculator. Exactly like that. So plug into your calculator. So when you do that, you get 58 is equal to r squared. All right, the reason I'm not going to find r is because of this. So my second step is to plug into final equation. Let me erase this, get it out of the way. In my final equation, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, it's r squared, right? When you plug it back in, you have to square the r. Well, right now with 58, it's already r squared. So instead of trying to just get it to r, I'd have to take the square root to do that. I would have to take square root of it, and then when I plugged it back into here, I would have to square it again, right? So I'm just adding extra steps, because square rooting it and then squaring it's going to bring it right back to 58. All right, so let's plug in for this. Bella, what do I do with the x and y whenever I'm doing the final equation? Yeah, just bring the x and y down. We don't actually plug into it. So it's going to be x minus, and Jalen, what's my h? 0 squared. And then plus, bring the y down, y minus. Joy, what's the k? 0 squared. And then Jessica, what's my r squared? 58. So literally I just took this 58 from over here. We just take it and plug it right in. Okay. Now we need to simplify. X minus 0 squared, class, just becomes x squared. We drop the 0. Y minus 0 squared, y squared is equal to 58. And that's it on that. So this one tells me find the center and radius of the circle, then graph the circle. So remember the center and the radius. So I do x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, right? That's the original standard equation. My center, when I look for that, that's h and k. So when I look at this, what do y'all think my h and k is on this? So yeah, this one is just going to be 0, 0, because once again, it was x minus h, but x didn't have anything to subtract from. Y minus k, nothing was subtracting from y, so that must be 0 and 0. And then I need to find the r. How do I find the r? Yeah, so because right now it's r squared equals 49. So I take square root of that. And what do you get, class? Now it tells me to graph it. And this is pretty simple. First thing you do is just graph the center of the circle. So center we said is 0, 0. Oops. So go to the 0, 0 and put a point. Then the radius, it goes from the center to the edge of the circle. So if our radius is 7, I want to go 7 up, 7 right, 7 down, 7 left. So I literally just count, go up to 7, put another dot. Go right 7 spaces, put a dot. Down and to the left. Once I have all 4 points like that, just connect them, draw the circle. Hopefully yours looks a little better than mine. But that's it on that one.